One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. I am Marla, and he is
Dave.
And we are Marla and Dave.
Oh, there you go. That wasn't actually planned. That's just natural choreography.
You know, that's like call and response. Don't you miss that with row your boat?
Absolutely. As we welcome you to the show, we want to remind you to text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 and support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign. We had a great month last month with that campaign, and we hopefully look forward to continuing that. Today, we welcome Morgana Rae, life and business coach, best-selling author of Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. Morgana has an amazing story of an amazing journey that started with a horrible accident, but blossoms into a successful life and much more. We can't wait to talk to her. She is a ball of positive energy that is palpable. When you hear her speak, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When we come back, our guest is Morgana Rae.
Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley believe it doesn't take much to make life a little better for our neighbors, coworkers, friends, our family members, even our children who suffer with mental illness. When you support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign, you are doing your part to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness. For just $1 today, or $1 a day for 1 week, just $7, we can look forward to a future that does not include the unfortunate and uncomfortable stares, bullying, and the subsequent isolation that our loved ones who suffer with brain differences deal with. Text the word GIVE, that's G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 to donate. A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away. Brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley.
As promised, welcome Morgana Rae.
Absolutely.
Very happy to be here.
Now, right quick, you have to correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name. Is it Morgana? How do you pronounce it? Yes to both.
Yes. People on the East Coast tend to say Morgana. People on the West Coast tend to say Morgana. I am from the West Coast, but I'm cool with either pronunciation.
Awesome.
So it's like potato, patata. It's really the same thing.
Except I've never heard anybody say patata.
Okay, never mind.
Anyway, so Morgana, we mentioned in the intro the horrible car accident. Why don't you take us back to the time before the car accident and how your mindset was and how life was, and then how the car accident really made a transformation?
The moment before the car accident was a really perfect, happy period in my life. I had a childhood with really dramatic ups and downs with a violent alcoholic mother who probably has borderline personality. And so it wasn't safe. And it was, there were a lot of times where I just wanted to die or run away, which I kind of knew as a kid running away would mean death. How would I support myself on the streets? But when I had the car accident, everything was kind of in this magical, perfect place. I was living with my father away from my mom. I had straight A's. I was in love.
You were thriving.
In love with loved me. And it was like the world was my oyster. And then I rode my bicycle to school, and I loved school. I was so good.
So is this in your primary education years, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I was 16 years old.
16.
I was in 11th grade. It was November 7th, 1983. By the way, I have my brain is like Swiss cheese in that I'm terrible at remembering names and dates.
No
but
worries.
I remember this. November 7, 1983, riding my bicycle to school, and I got about 2 blocks from my house, I was hit by another girl going to my school who freaked out and left me there just unconscious in the middle of the street.
So another girl was driving her car and she hit you while you were on your
bike.
bicycle.
Yeah, it was not an equal match.
Wow.
And somebody saw me in the street and called the paramedics. My father even saw the ambulance and had no idea that I was in it.
Right.
Wow.
Had no idea it had to do with you. Wow.
No. And I remember waking up in the hospital as if I'd overslept. And I recognized that it was a hospital, I think, because I visited my grandmother there years earlier. And I remember weird things like a clown made of candy and stuff like that. And at that moment, I was so like happy and grateful to be alive. And the weird thing is that's almost my only memory of that period. Like it's all, I thought I was myself at the time, but it like most of that period just sort of is in mist.
Now, how much time had transpired between the accident and getting to the hospital and you waking up?
Well, I don't know because I was unconscious for that. And
I mean,
was
looking
in a
back,
coma.
What
did
did they
you find
tell
out?
you? Yeah,
what
like
did they tell
were
you?
you in
I
a
was
coma
in a coma for almost a week.
Okay.
Wow.
So, right. So
And for my poor parents, they couldn't operate. There was nothing that they could do except wait and see if I woke up.
Yeah.
right.
See if I could speak, because the area of my brain was the speech center, so they didn't know whether I'd be able to speak.
Wow.
But apparently there is no force on earth strong enough to keep me from speaking.
Oh, I might know that very exact same genetic pattern
Just
and
like we
inclination.
said, we told you she was a ball of energy. So continue. I'm
And
sorry.
What nobody prepared me for. I don't know if they could, or if science was just so like far behind back then, but nobody prepared me or warned me for what to expect. And what that was years of not being able to sleep through the night, of suicidal ideation, of not being able to, it really in the beginning, not being able to read a whole page and stay awake.
Wow.
And I was the straight A college bound kid, not being able to remember what I read.
Wow.
And I would go to school and the teachers were completely not equipped for anybody with any challenge. So they thought I was cheating by needing more time.
Wow.
Like, you know, I got a poor grade in homeroom, which is like, I didn't even know until then that they gave you a grade for homeroom because all you do is show up and it can affect your GPA. But I also had to pee all the time.
Right.
So they marked me down.
So
for
wait,
that.
I have to stop you, Morgana. Are you saying that your bladder issues were also connected to
The brain injury?
Wow.
Yeah, everything.
Right.
Everything
Well, it is your control center, so that
So
would
you ended up being stigmatized for something that you couldn't help.
by teachers, yeah.
Yeah.
And I fell so far behind in school that I had to leave my safe father's house because I couldn't keep up. And it just seemed like it was easier to start over at the high school in my mother's neighborhood where I wasn't behind, so that I could just try to keep up. That helped. And honestly, despite every teenage movie I've ever seen in my life, and I was the kid who was bullied and total outcast and no friends at all in elementary school.
Yeah.
And the kids in high school were so much nicer. So here's this like weirdo who shows up in the middle of the 11th grade, and people just adopted me to be their friend. And that saved my life because the sleeping problems were so severe and I was waking up starving and I would need to consume thousands of calories before like something in my body would switch and let me sleep. So now I'm getting an eating disorder. Oh, what fun, right? So I started, I actually committed myself to a mental hospital. I was so suicidal.
Now, what age was that?
17.
And you were staying with your mom at this point?
I was staying with my mom, and I was so suicidal that I committed myself to a hospital. I was at, yeah, okay,
What-
yeah, I committed myself to a hospital, and I was actually voted most mysterious senior of my high school
Hilarious.
because I disappeared for a couple of weeks. And I hate it. I hear that some people like the security of the hospital. I hated it.
Me too.
Right.
Yeah, we're similar. And
I
don't
did
feel bad,
not-
girl. I was voted least likely to ever have kids, and I have 3. Okay, in my high school yearbooks. I get it totally.
Yeah.
So the it's not even a question. You're talking about the stigma, and I just wanted you just to briefly, the comment that's coming to my mind is the completely misleading realities of mental health or a brain difference because you can't see it like a broken arm. You can't see where the hurt is or where we're trying to fix the wound. So it sounds like you definitely experienced that
It
on a
was
couple
even
of
worse-
levels.
It was even worse than that. I come from Southern California, which is sort of one of the great woo-woo spiritual centers of the world. And my mother was in a 12-step program. So I was inundated by all these really well-intentioned, judgmental people
Right.
who were telling me, don't take antidepressants because you're a drug addict, 16-year-old girl who's never taken drugs. Because they lived in that
Right.
world that all drugs are evil.
Right.
Right.
And I must be an addict. Newsflash, that was never my thing.
Right.
The addiction.
Yeah.
The Antidepressants Act did finally save my life. And I also was getting told everywhere that I wasn't spiritual enough, that my brain wasn't working and I wasn't sleeping and I wanted to die because I wasn't spiritual enough.
Right.
So I was trying all this stuff, rebirthing back in the early 80s and weird diets and like all the crazy stuff that LA offers. And by the way, if it works for you, do whatever works for you. None of it worked for me. And I was desperate. So I was an easy mark and it made it even worse. Because it was my fault.
Morgana,
right?
hold that thought because we're going to come back with more with exactly that, and also how you have come out of this and what purpose your pain has been driven by. We'll be right back.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
Bipolar disorder affects about 45 million people. The World Health Organization says it typically consists of both manic and depressive episodes, separated by periods of normal mood.
Manic episodes involve elevated or irritable mood or overactivity, rapid speech, inflated self-esteem, and decreased need for sleep. People who have manic attacks but do not experience depressive episodes are also classified as having bipolar disorder.
Effective treatments are available for the treatment of the acute phase of bipolar disorder and the prevention of relapse. These are medicines that stabilize mood. Psychosocial support is an important component of treatment.
If you or someone you know is suffering with bipolar, hopefully you and or they are in treatment. But if not, please, we ask you here on Mental Health Mondays to seek professional help. And remember, you are not alone.
This message is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave. I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically live my personality on my scene.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
All right, we want to come right back to that same thought where you were, Morgana, before we went to the commercial, went to our break.
Can I jump in and say something about bipolar disorder
Absolutely.
first?
Of course, please.
I had a year where I had a bunch of clients with bipolar disorder. And what I learned, because first looking at the clients that I had and then discussing it with the psychologist, is bipolar disorder is very, very common with really, really smart, creative people. So if you live in LA and you work with entertainment industry people, there's going to be a lot of it there. I think it comes with the talent.
And I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, and please don't quote me without confirming, but I think within, like she's saying, the entertainment industry, from what I've heard, it might even be as high as almost 80%.
Wow. I haven't seen that statistic, but I can see that being the case. So you were telling us about and painting this picture of really being stigmatized through your high school years, and the result of the trauma of that injury, the car accident, and the brain injury. How did you turn the corner to being this successful life and business coach and therapist and best-selling author?
Not quickly. And I, again, want to say I was really lucky. The kids, at least in high school, were really helpful. And the poor adults had no idea what was going on or how to support me. I had a couple things going for me, which is because I was young and in school. And this is really, really important for anybody who has had a traumatic brain injury, is anything that is exercising your brain is really, really good for recovery. So any kind of class and anything, any opportunity that you have to do something badly is so good for you. Any opportunity you have to learn something new is so good for you. Now we know more, like have fish oil that's really good for,
omegas.
Yes, and lion's mane mushroom, also really good for brain health. And mood stabilization. What literally saved my life is, at a certain point, I was homeless. I was living on not even couches. I was living on floors. I was living on the dining room floor of a family friend and borrowing their station wagon to get to school, to graduate from high school. And I was so depressed and humiliated and lonely and
I can imagine.
Helpless, that I finally agreed to take an antidepressant as a form of suicide. Was my 17-year-old thinking at that time, is that I wanted to harm myself so much that I was willing to take an antidepressant with the thought it might harm me. So I popped one pill that night, and I woke up the next morning feeling hope for the first time in years.
Wow.
I hated the side effects. Not only did I have to pee all the time, but I couldn't pee. What was it called? I think it was called imipramine, old school, early before Prozac. Made me super duper sleepy in the beginning, but it created that gap where it didn't numb me out and it didn't make me happy, but it created a gap so that where I was suicidal every day, now I was suicidal every few days.
Right. So there was a relief, a slight break.
And then over the years, because the pressure of college was really tough, it became every few weeks. And then it became every few months. And then it became every few years. And now it's like maybe once a decade I go into that dark place.
Now, is that due to the medication or due to your circumstances and changing as well as therapy?
Well, I'm not on medication anymore.
Okay.
I was on it for as long as I needed it. And then I would go on it again if I went through another
dark period.
Episode,
Right. Knowing that I'm not, I stay on it when I need it. I call a doctor and I see a doctor. Therapy really, really helps. Having a life coach helps. Having, being in a loving relationship is like the best thing for my mental health. Other things, I know they talk about exercise, but I was a fat girl growing up. So exercise was part of like this abusive, you're not good enough narrative. But I love dancing. And speaking of mental health, my father died of Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And when I found out his diagnosis, I accidentally met a Stanford doctor who told me that partner dancing, like tango, like swing, all that improvisation,
right.
somebody's a leader, somebody's a follower, is the number one activity for preventing and reversing Alzheimer's.
Wow.
So my incredibly loving husband of the 100 weddings in 100 countries husband signed us up for tango. He had never taken a dance class in his life. Total 2 feet. What is it? Left feet, 2 left feet. Signed us up for tango. We were really bad at that. So they suggested, well, maybe you should also take the swing dancing class so you won't suck as much at tango. 5 years later, I am a swing dance. I am an addict. I'm totally addicted to
Hilarious.
So learn things, celebrate being bad at stuff, because that's the best thing for your brain is when you're figuring it out.
Right.
Keep finding things you're bad at. Take the fish oil, take the lion's mane, give yourself time. I wish more than anything that I had somebody who knew what was going on, who could hold my hand and say, it just takes time.
Yeah.
It takes years. And knowing, having been through all this, just the breathing space of, wow, I'm not wanting to die every day. I have some good days in between. I have some good weeks. Oh my God, I have months now, years, decades.
Right.
So that even when I go into that unhappy place, I've been here before and I know that I come out.
Yeah. There's hope.
Yeah. And when I meet somebody who is suicidal, I say to them what I would want someone to say to me, which is, I've been where you are. I know what it's like. It does get better. Your only job is to stay alive. Stay alive. That's it.
Right.
Stay alive long enough for it to get better, because it will get better if you're here.
So
I love that.
you becoming so the book that you wrote, and also not just coaching and managing finance, but also life management.
I'm not a financial manager.
Okay,
at
right.
all.
But you're right. Okay, but right. So
Yeah.
but all these things have come together for you. Love.
Here's the thing. I forgot to mention, a very weird thing, kind of a gift developed during all those dark years of recovering, where I had always been, school had always been so easy for me that honestly, I was Miss Judgy Pants about people who didn't do their homework.
Right.
Right. And then when I had a brain that didn't work, I understood
Right.
that it's not a level playing field and it's different for everybody. And I got a good dose of humility. And while, the left brain part with the language wasn't working so well, my intuition started
Increased.
to get really good.
Wow.
Like knowing things before they happen and knowing things about people, just being able to pick up micro signals and stuff. That kind of blended with a natural propensity to just want to help and heal people and have other people not feel the pain that I've had, which I think is where most healers come from.
Right. Exactly.
And the two things that we've touched on, the book Financial Alchemy, and I've built this multi-million-dollar business coaching people on their relationship with money as if it's a person.
Right.
I'm not a financial manager, don't want to be.
Right.
But money is the number one excuse human beings give for what we can't have, do, or be. It's like the big no. It's the big rejector in our life experience. It's sort of a mirror of, are we lovable? Are we worthy? Are we safe? Are we powerful?
Right. Okay.
So
Wait, hold
kind
on one
of-
second.
okay.
Yeah, no. I have to pause you here right quick. We'll be right back.
okay.
All right, it's time for the poll question and results from last week. Actually, Marla should be dancing, but we're going to give Marla a break today
I'm
because
so tired.
she's danced out. Our daughter got married yesterday, and we were dancing well into the night, into the morning actually. So
here you
Marla's
go.
dance moves have changed
to
to
my
just
finger.
a finger sway. So, Marla, as you sway your finger, why don't you remind us what the poll question was last week?
Last week's poll question, which, by the way, all of our guests are always invited to join us in these responses. Which one of these mental health conditions is the main cause of disability worldwide? A, dementia, B, narcissism, or C, depression?
So, Morgana, this is your chance to try to see if you can guess it correctly. Again, the question is, which one of these mental health conditions is the main cause of disability worldwide? Dementia, narcissism,
or depression?
I vote for depression.
Okay, and ding, ding, ding.
And also our guest last week.
Kent Toussaint, yes.
Kent Toussaint guest as well. So
Absolutely.
you're in good company. But now we're going to have to send you out there on your own.
All right.
Next
the new
week's
poll question is, what percentage of Americans report that worry and stress related to the COVID-19 pandemic are hurting their mental health? Again, what percentage of Americans report that worry and stress related to the COVID-19 pandemic are hurting their mental health? 27%, 38%, or 45%?
I would say 45.
Well,
we know what you said, and we were going to review that, but not right now.
Yes.
It's an
you
evil
have to
trick,
wait till
Morgana.
next
You
week.
have to see it next week.
As Kent Toussaint, our guest last week, had to wait for this week to see if he had guessed last week's question correctly. So, but you're on a roll because you guessed last week's question correctly.
Right, exactly.
So, I tend to think that you
I
might be
suspect
correct.
that you're probably going to be one of those ones. You're 100%er.
And as we get back to the show, remember, $1 today keeps the stigma away. So text GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021. Back to the show. And we're back.
Exactly. So you were telling us about financial alchemy and how that most problems that we as people deal with have a center theme or core identification of money.
And I loved how you're already changing the paradigm by addressing money not just as some existential thing or a tool, but really as a person, your relationship to money.
Well, money is invented by human beings. It's almost a shared delusion that one bag is worth $5 and another is worth $50,000.
Right.
I mean,
It's whatever we agree on. Somebody
bags.
sets a price and we agree to pay.
But what money represents is really, really deep stuff. It represents love. Are we wanted? Are we valued? Are we safe? And when healthcare is involved, do we even have a right to exist? And power. So any wounds around not being loved, not being wanted, not being safe, even if it looks like it has nothing to do with money, like accidents or illnesses and powerlessness, they're going to show up in our relationship with money.
Right.
So I like to use money as a pain door for deeper issues about our relationship with existence and ourselves. It's a nice side effect that my clients make a lot of money after doing the work, but first we have to make it safe. And I focus on the money, honestly, because when I started coaching back in 1994, I had a bunch of celebrity clients. I had a mountain of testimonials. I was really good at marketing and all that. And I was living in Los Angeles, struggling to make $100 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Impressive.
Wow.
And so I kept taking more classes and working with coaches and deficit spending and borrowing and not moving the needle at all.
Wow.
And here's how this relates to the topic here is I became so discouraged. Like I took this one last class on overcoming sales objections, and 7 people in a row, I overcame their objections, and 7 people in a row didn't show up, didn't pay. And that was like it for me. I just gave up. I felt like my life was pointless because I was really good at what I was doing. I was getting these kind of magical results, and I was actually, people wanted to work with me, but my inability to let people pay me, and it was unconscious because I was working so hard and doing everything you're supposed to be doing, public speaking, just all of it. I felt like such a loser. And I felt like I was set up, here's what you're supposed to be doing, and you'll never, ever make a living at it. And it felt like life was so cruel, I just didn't want to play. I felt hopeless and helpless and frightened and furious, and I just wanted to die. And that was the state I was in when things changed. So this is really, really important, is there's a value to these really dark experiences. And I know that this whole kind of law of attraction, positive vibe thing is very popular in my industry.
Right.
But we have those really dark nights of the soul. Sometimes it's because of something external, sometimes it's
Internal.
not. But we have them, and they have value, and we can use them. And the process that changed my relationship with money, and I'm making air quotes here, and immediate results. 4 people hired me the next day for double what I'd ever charged before. And I've really made millions of dollars since, and helped other people make many more millions. And it's not about the money. That's sort of the frosting. It's alchemy. And here's the old religion major in me talking, but alchemy, going back thousands and thousands of years, is this idea of transmuting lead. Our most lead in human experience is the fuel to change it into spiritual and material gold. It's like, imagine a slingshot. And the more you pull the slingshot into the wrong direction, you know, where we don't want to be, the more tension it creates to catapult us.
The potential force is there. With the stress comes the potential force to be catapulted forward. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I love that. Now, Morgana, I'm sorry, but we're out of time. We're going to have you back because you are one of the most interesting guests that we've talked to in a long time. Again, her book is Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. She is a best-selling author. She's a life coach, life and business coach. Morgana Rae, thank you so much. And before you go,
leave, well, we want to be sure that 2 things. Can you tell us where everyone can find you? And
Easy peasy. Go to morganarae.com. It's just, you see it spelled one word, add a .com. My book is there. My Does Money Love You quiz, easy peasy, non-painful self-assessment to take a look at where you are, so that based on your responses, I can curate the best next steps for you. And I always include free stuff. Tons of resources there. That's the place to go, morganarae.com.
You've been
love
amazing.
That. Now, Morgana, there's something else that you say. I don't know if you say it all the time, but you've said change happens at the speed of safety. Talk to us about that a little bit right before we leave.
That's my mantra. If you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing and you aren't seeing results, it's not because you're failing. It's because there's something unsafe about what you're pursuing. For me, I needed to uncover my money monster. It's all over my website. Do the free video series at the top of my website for more on the money monster. But anything that triggers your feelings of I'm unloved, I'm unworthy, I'm unsafe, is stuff you want to protect yourself from. So in my experience, if you're doing everything right, you aren't getting results, you are unconsciously protecting yourself because you love yourself. And what we want to do is make what you want safe, because as soon as it's safe, everything changes.
I love that. Again, our guest has been Morgana Rae.
Can't be more perfect.
Thank you so much, and much continued success, and we hope to have you back.
For sure. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been amazing. Thank you.
See you guys next week.
Bye.